Hey YouTube, Kira Toy here, bringing you all an update to my Majespecter Yugioh deck profile for November 2024. We have the release of Majespecter Unicorn Kieran off of the ban list. From the last list, it went from 1 to unlimited, so the bounce power of the Majespecter deck is now at full power, and it is a very fun pendulum deck if you're looking to build a pendulum deck with search consistency, spell and trap setup, and then just overall protection for card effects for your Majespecter monsters. This is definitely the deck to look into with all the other extra deck summonings that you can do with your many different Majespecter monsters. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the actual Majespecter monsters. We're running 3 copies of Majespecter Bunbuku. Now, the majority of the Majespecter monsters don't actually have pendulum scale card effects. They rely on their monster effects. So with Bunbuku, when it's normal or special summon, you can add 1 Majespecter monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Bunbuku once per turn, and it cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. This is the extra protection that your Majespecter monsters have, but just having search power, whether you normal or special summon this card, gives you more setup, which definitely does help with basically a 1-card combo to go into your Link 2 Majespecter Orthrus New with our next monster, which is Majespecter Porcupine Yamarashi, one of the newest main deck monsters for the Majespecter deck. With this card during the main phase, if you control a Majespecter monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If it's normal or special summon, you can target a Majespecter spell in your graveyard, set it. You go and use each of the previous effects of Porcupine once per turn, and while those cards in the monster zone, your opponent cannot target it with card effects, and it cannot be destroyed by card effects. So set up for our Majespecter spells in the graveyard as well. Give us recycle power for cards like Majespecter Wind, or even our Majespecter Cyclone, depending on which one we want to reset up on the field. The other 3 ofs include 3 copies of Majespecter Kuroyama. When it's normal or special summon, you can add 1 Majespecter spell from your deck to your hand, including the search for your 2 spells, Wind and Cyclone, that I just mentioned before, and having the same protection effects of your other Majespecter monsters, with the last of the 3 ofs being 3 copies of Majespecter Toad Ogama. When it's normal or special summon, you can set 1 Majespecter spell or trap directly from your deck, but it cannot be activated this turn. So this gives you more setup for some of the traps as well that we run in the deck. Being able to set them directly, avoids Ash Blossom. And for the fact that this card can't be targeted, it's really, really difficult to just even hand trap this card to begin with or stop the initial search. There's only a couple options for you to be able to do so with this card, but still very, very good for more initial setup on the field. Now, for Majespecter Unicorn Kieran, I know it was released at 3 of, but I'm only running 2 copies of this card. The majority for our pendulum scales in the deck are 2 and 5, so we have to rely on other special summon options for Kieran onto the field. So you can do so with cards like Majespecter Wind, so that gives us this monster on the field, and during either player's turn, you can target 1 pendulum monster in your monster zone and 1 monster your opponent controls, return them to the hand. You can only use this effect of Kieran once per turn. So this card really comes in handy, being able to bounce back your other Majespecter monsters back to your hand and not having to bounce Kieran himself, because then you can reuse those normal and special summon effects with your Majespecter monsters while saving Kieran on the field for the next turn for you to bounce other cards that your opponent may have also. With the 1-ofs for our Majespecter monsters being 1 Nekomata and 1 QB. QB being able to add a Majespecter trap from our deck to our hand gives us search power for the variety of Majespecter traps we run in the deck also. And with Nekomata, you can basically, when it's normal or special summon, you can add 1 Majespecter card from your deck to your hand during the end phase of this turn. So Nekomata can help to grab our Kieran to our hand for us to be able to then special summon off of cards like Majespecter Wind. Some of the Draco Slayer support that we run for the deck include 3 copies of Majesty Pegasus, the Draco Slayer. With this card in the Pendulum Scale, if you have a Draco Slayer or a Majespecter card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can add 1 Draco Slayer Pendulum monster with a different original name than that card from your deck to your hand. Then you can destroy 1 card in your Pendulum Zone. You can only use this effect of Pegasus once per turn. So that search power is meant just to grab a proper scale for the other Pendulum Zone. We can even grab our Luster Pendulum, because then we can use Luster Pendulum to destroy the other Pendulum Scale and give us more of a search, building up the extra deck while giving us more cards for the Pendulum Scales for us to use. And with this card, being able to discard this card for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot target Draco Slayer monsters with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your card effects. And if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Draco Slayer or Pendulum Summon, you can add one field spell from your deck to your hand, then discard one card. We run a good variety of field spells in the deck, whether it be the Majespecter one or just the generic spellcaster support ones that we do. So having this lineup and search power in the form of a Pendulum monster also does come in handy. We're also running the 2 copies of Luster Pendulum, the Draco Slayer, and the 1 copy of Master Pendulum, the Draco Slayer, and the 1 additional copy of Dynamite Power Load, the Draco Slayer, all for the added search for Draco Slayer monsters with destruction power, with our Master Pendulum, a tuner option with Luster Pendulum to be able to go into our Ignister Prominence, the Blasting Draco Overlord, and with our additional setup for being able to recycle cards with Dynamite Power Load. The last of the Pendulum monsters and the main deck monsters include the 1 copy of Astrograph Sorcerer. I just really like this for the special summon power they can provide, and then an additional search when one of them is destroyed on the field. And then we can use this card for the additional Pendulum play, depending on what we want to go into, because our Majespecter Orthrus New just needs the 2 Pendulum monsters, including a Majespecter monster, so Astrograph Sorcerer could be the last Pendulum monster to go for also. For the spells, we're running 3 copies of Majespecter Win. This quick play spell, when you activate this card, you can also tribute 1 Win spellcaster monster, special summon 1 Majespecter monster from your hand or graveyard, or if you tributed a monster at activation, special summon 1 from your deck instead. So one of the quicker ways to get Kieran onto the field for the tribute, and once again, for the fact that the Pendulum Scales vary in the deck in a way that we cannot Pendulum Summon out Kieran to the field, so we rely on either the tribute power or just the tribute summon of Kieran onto the field with our Majespecter monsters. Win definitely does come in handy with that. Otherwise, we just have an add power with this card to be able to do so. And also the 1 copy of Majespecter Cyclone. You tribute 1 Win spellcaster monster to target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it. So more destruction power in the form of a quick play spell, which can be searched or set up with a variety of other different Majespecter monsters. For the field spells, the 1 copy of Majesty's Pegasus. It's not actually a Majespecter card, so we can't search it off of the spell search, but we have our Dracoverlord or Draco Slayer to be able to search this, or even some of the other spell setup in the deck. All Majespecter monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. You can tribute 1 Win spellcaster to special summon a level 4 lower Majespecter from your deck. You can use this effect once per turn, but it is also special summon power for more Majespecter monsters by just being able to tribute a Win spellcaster we control. Secret Village of the spellcaster to stop our opponent's spell setup just by us controlling a spellcaster monster. And 2 copies of Dragonic Pendulum. All Draco Slayer monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. And with this card, also, if a dragon Draco Slayer you control activates effect, except during the damage step, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. Additional power, but also we need other field spell targets because we do run 1 set rotation for us to be able to give our opponent a field spell, which they really can't do much with, and then give us the proper field spell that we may want. The 1 Terraforming, and then the 1 Call by the Grave to finish off the spells, with our traps being 2 copies of Majespecter Tempest. With this counter trap, when a monster would be special summoned or a monster effect activated, tribute a Win spellcaster to negate the summoner activation and destroy that card. Once again, searchable with cards like our Ogama, just being able to set this card on the field, or our QB being able to add it to our hand from our deck. The 1 copy of Majespecter Supercell. While you have a Majespecter card in the Pendulum Zone, the activation effect of other Majespecter cards on the side of the field cannot be negated. And once per turn, you can target 5 in your graveyard, shuffle all 5 Majespecter cards into the deck to draw 1 card. So recycle power for more of our Majespecter cards, with the last of them being our 1 copy of Majespecter Tornado. Tribute 1 Win spellcaster monster to target 1 monster your opponent controls and banish it. So more banish power and not having to rely on destruction of our opponent's cards, with the last of the traps being the 1 copy of Rivalry of Warlords. For the limitation, for the majority of the time, we'll only have spellcaster type monsters in the field. Our other monsters like Luster Pendulum will most likely just be set up in the Pendulum Scale. When we do get them out on the field, it's mostly just to go for our Synchro monster. And then for the extra deck, we're running 2 copies of Majespecter Orthrus New, needing 2 Pendulum monsters, including a Majespecter monster. If it's Link Summon, you can add up to 2 face-up Majespecter Pendulum monsters from your extra deck to your hand. Then you can add 2 Majespecter Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck face-up to your extra deck. So these are the monsters you'll want to Pendulum Summon out using the Raccoon Boombuku and also the Porcupine setup, which I'll go over the combo at the end of the video. The 1 copy of Barricade Board Blocker, the 1 Beyond the Pendulum, 1 Win the Wind Charmer, and also the 1 SP Little Knight for the other Link monsters we run in the deck. For the Xyz monsters, 2 copies of Majespecter Draco Ryu, needing 2 level 4 monsters. If you can Pendulum Summon to level 4, you can also Pendulum Summon this card face up from your extra deck. If a monster is tributed while this card's in the field, except during the damage step, you can detach material from this card to special summon a level 6 or lower Wind Spellcaster from your deck. So another way to grab Kieran from the deck onto the field. And then also with this card, if the card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place it in your Pendulum Zone. And if you have a Majespecter or Draco Slayer card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can add 1 Majespecter card from your deck to your hand. More search power for more Pendulum Summons is what this card provides, with the rest of our Xyz monsters being 1 Tornado Dragon, the 1 Lightning Chidori, the 1 Leviair, the 1 Baguska, and the 1 Zeus. I thought of running the other Xyz Draco Slayer monster. It's just a little too slow. I find Ryu to be a lot faster in the deck now, and then just going for more of the generic lineup, especially some of the wind options for our Xyz monsters, with our only non-Link and Xyz monsters being the 1 the Blasting Draco Slayer and the 1 Mighty Draco Slayer to use with our Luster Pendulum. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I mentioned before with the Boombuku play, you can summon out your Boombuku, or let's say you have your search initially with this card. Let's say you start off with your Majespecter Win. You can also tribute a Win monster to special summon one. Otherwise, you add the Majespecter monster for that special summon from your hand or graveyard. If you tribute a monster, act the activation, special summon one from your deck instead. So if you have this card, you could go for the normal summon tribute of Boombuku, giving you the initial search as well, and then special summon power also. But if you go for just the Boombuku play, you can summon out Boombuku, use its effect to add a Majespecter monster from your deck to your hand. You can add your Porcupine. Porcupine can then special summon to the field, and then you can go for the Link 2 play, setting both of these monsters up in the face-up extra deck. Going for your Link 2 of your New. New can then add back both of these monsters to your hand, and then with New adding 2 from your extra deck, face-up, you can add your QB and also your go-to Yada face-up, setting the Pendulum scale with both your Boombuku and your Yamarashi. Pendulum summoning both, summon out both monsters on the field. Your Yada will search out the needed trap or spell, and then your QB will search out the trap. So then you have 2 Majespecter trap setups, your 2 level 4 monsters to be able to then overlay into your Majespecter Draco Ryu. And then if a monster is tributed while this card's on the field, you can detach 1 to special summon. So this is where the setup with your Majespecter Win that you just searched off of the initial Yada as well will come in handy, because then you can activate your Win for this play, tributing your New to then special summon a Majespecter monster from your hand or graveyard. If you tributed, you can special summon it from your deck instead. So then you can use your Kieran for that special summon off of this card. Your Ryu will also activate, being able to detach 1 from this card. You could go for a different search off of your Majespecter monsters. You could go for your Ogama if you wish, since you already have the Kieran on the field, and then use the Ogama to set the initial other Majespecter trap of choice onto the field. Since you already used the spell, you'll have the other Tempest on the field as well. So with your play, you have the 1 Xyz, the 1 additional Pendulum monster, and the 1 Kieran, both set up ready on the field with just the use of the 1 Boombuku in your hand. And then for the following turn, you have the bounce power of Kieran to then use for your bounce power of another opponent's card, for then you to be able to summon back the Ogama the following turn for another setup on the field. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, this is a very fun deck that just focuses on a lot of Pendulum setup, being able to use your Majespecter monsters to their fullest extent on the field for their search and setup that they're meant to do. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.